Merriam, look at that beard. Look at that beard on your left. Kazu Negri on your right. Ooh, hold on. 2 players lead on the leaderboard. Is that on mine?
Yeah, I think it is.
Both players are in the top 32. Yeah, baby. Making up ground.
That's kind of a freebie over the course of a tournament like this. Eventually we get, maybe not early on, but by day 2, you're going to get that one.
It'll be an unclaimed territory here for Merriam, a noble hierarch. Of course, unclaimed territory naming humans. And we're going to go over to Kazu. Kazu is going to sacrifice a Scalding Tarn. He'll get himself his team vents. Fall down to 17, will Kazu. We'll see a little manipulation here, I'm sure. A lot of options here for our Storm player. Serum Vision, Sleight of Hand, Opt among them. And he's going to go with Serum Visions. He does have some fun one-ofs here. Now, we've seen Storm players, of course, winning with Grape Shot. Some players opt to play an Empty the Warren's main deck. Some do not. Kazu has 1. Some players like Remand, some don't. Kazu has 3, as he's going to scry 2 with the old Serum Visions here. And then he's got a Repeal and, interestingly enough, a Merchant Scroll. So we're going to go back over to Ross Merriam.
Is that in, 8th edition or something?
It is, yeah. It's white-bordered. Okay. It's a very ugly card.
Yeah, but you get to break out the Homelands ones.
That's true. That's true. Horizon Canopy, and now Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Here's an attack for 1. So Ross said something very interesting to me last week, and I wish...
Attacking creature gets exalted.
Yeah,
go ahead, 1 second.
Go ahead and take that, yeah. Go ahead and take that. Kazu going to play an island, pass the turn back. Ross said something very interesting to me last week that I'd like to get your opinion on, as Merriam takes his 3rd turn. Ross Merriam said, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben is a top 10 Magic creature of all time.
I think there's a case for that. Part of it has to do with value over replacement. There isn't a second or third Thalia-style card that's nearly as good. And because it's so important for creature decks to have something like that in this kind of matchup, I think you could make the case.
Take a look at the Kitesail Freebooter, Trigger, 2 ops, a Pyretic Ritual, Past in Flames, Desperate Ritual, Remand, and that might be a peak? I don't think so.
If you're just talking about raw rate, raw efficiency, I would not put Thalia in the top 10. If you multiply rate by uniqueness, then I think there's a strong case.
And it's actually a sleight of hand. My apologies there for you wonderful people at home. He made a pretty compelling argument. Now, we didn't really get too deep into it. It was in between rounds before he had to go back and play again. But Ross is very confident in his assertions, and he said this is a top 10 creature in Magic, certainly in competitive Magic history. And I was trying to think of what the best creature of all time is in competitive Magic. I don't even know the answer to that.
Best all-time creature in competitive Magic?
Is it Tarmogoyf?
No, I mean, the first creature that jumps to mind is Stoneforge Mystic.
Wow. That's a Merchant Scroll. Okay.
But I would have to think about it. I mean, when you actually sit down and make these top 10 lists, it's tough. There's only
really
10,
hard.
There's only 10 slots.
Yeah. Here's an opt. That top card's going to go to the bottom. Kazu draws Mystery card. Now he'll draw a card for his turn. Looks like the last 2 draw steps were Grape Shot and Past in Flames, I believe.
Oh, sorry. It almost certainly has to be Snapcaster Mage.
Does it? Ben cut him from his deck.
Sure.
I don't even need him.
People cut really good cards all the time. People play 3 Lightning Bolts in decks.
Is it not Delver or Goyf? I mean, Delver's been cleaning people up for years.
I think Delver is a function of the specific nature of Legacy.
Okay.
Because of just how much the game is about Ponder and Brainstorm and doing things for 1 mana.
Delver was a great standard card, though.
Yeah, they had Ponder and Mana League and Snapcaster Mage. There were other... I mean, how good is... There's a lot of good spells in Modern. How good is Delver Secrets in Modern?
Good point.
Not really a card.
Easy game 1 here for Ross Merriam. Thalia's Lieutenant, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, maybe a top 10 creature of all time, flexing its muscles as Merriam very quickly wins game number 1, Humans, of a game over Storm. We'll continue that conversation in just a moment. Let's go to Kazu's sideboard first. 3 Bolts, 2 Braids, 2 Blood Moon, 2 Dispel, 2 Empty the Warrens, a Dismember, an Engineered Explosives, a Giga Drowse, and a Vipe Away.
So I'm not a huge fan of Empty the Warrens in this sort of matchup because there's so many 1-2s and first strikers and such that I think it's really hard to get it done. I think Negri wants to stick to just trying to combo out. To that end, I like the Engineered Explosives, the Dismember, the 2 Abrasive, and the 3 Lightning Bolts. Those cards represent a blend of creature removal plus a way to get some troublesome permanents off the table, like if Merriam happens to have something like Grafdigger's Cage.
Other side of things here for the Ross Merriam, looking for open win number 5 here this weekend. 3 Sin Collector, 2 Gaddock Teeg, 2 Izzet Staticaster, 2 Reclamation Sage, a Damping Sphere, a Direfleet Daredevil, a Dismember, a Gutshot, that 4th copy Reflector Mage, and the card that beat him last weekend, One Whirler Rogue.
A lot of good anti-spell measures here. The 3 copies of Sin Collector and the 2 Gadok Teagues being easy, and the Damping Sphere. That a very natural design that just happens to incidentally work very nicely against Storm.
I'm picking up a little sarcasm here.
Are you?
Early this afternoon. These players will sideboard. Get ready here for game number 2. We'll continue that conversation of top Magic creature of all time. But let's very quickly talk about top playmat here for Guilds of Ravnica. Hello, Meals on Steel. We've got our creature collection. Eat a little lunch. You can tell them how to get this one.
Well, head over to your pre-release, September 29th and 30th. You can go over to go.cerseigames.com/pre-release to find out more information and find out what stores are signed up. And you should ask your local game store to sign up, and you have an opportunity to win this playmat.
Meals on Steel. Look at the fox, the kraken, the hippo, the bunny, the cat. And then I've still got a real beef with these birds here on the side not getting anything to eat. They should have like a little piece of bread down there or something.
They'll be okay. They're kind of scavengers.
They could be nice birds.
They are rats with wings.
Oh.
They will be fine. They will find some food.
Oh.
They are dude. I mean, they are birds that live in, more urban environment, even rural environments. They are disgusting creatures. They'll be okay. I would not share food with a bird.
Maybe you just have the wrong impression. Maybe there are nice ones, but you only met mean ones. Have you considered that?
I'm not speaking to niceness or meanness. I'm talking to hygiene.
I see.
Like if you somehow pet a bird in the wild, you'd have to cut your hand off. No. They are so disgusting.
Is that what would happen if you ran your hand through Ross's beard? You have to cut your hand off. It looks pretty.
No, that's
pretty clean.
Groomed-ish.
Pretty clean beard there for Ross Merriam, who we will learn a little bit more about right now. How many open topics now for us? 22. Not bad for the 29-year-old from Middletown, Connecticut. 4 open wins, looking for that 5th one here this weekend in Baltimore. He's got 2 invitational top 8s. No win there just yet for Merriam, as the Jeopardy fan who appeared on the show in July 2016, loves himself some eggs, and for whatever reason, a huge Utah Jazz fan. And, of course, people don't know this, though I do mention it on air. Sometimes he'll just text me or you or both of us inexplicitly about the Jazz for something we did not ask to talk about.
He said that was a Stockton Malone fan when he was a kid.
It's true.
Just stuck with the Jazz.
It's true. I think he sent us a message like sometime this week on Facebook that was just about the Jazz. It was an article on the Ringer about the Jazz where he just came at both of us.
Did I ever tell you about Ross and trivia?
No.
Okay, so people like to talk about my match with him and back in the day.
Of course.
Not the most embarrassing thing for Ross that I've been personally associated with.
Ooh, talk to me.
So his Jeopardy appearance in 2016.
Took a beating.
I lived in 15 minutes from the Jeopardy studio when he came in, so he stayed with me.
Okay.
And I went to the viewing.
Okay.
And he was a little upset because he came out on Monday or Tuesday and was hoping to stay for the week and make a deep run. It didn't happen. So Ross decided to chase his losses by playing trivia around Los Angeles, like bar trivia, to try to get like free drinks and food.
Okay.
And I went with him, and we were traveling around the city, and we just got a blowtorch taken to us every place. We didn't win a dime, and it's Ross is already, because he went up against Pranjal and just got rinsed.
Oh yeah.
He got his clock completely clean, and I think was thinking, well, at least I can make up some of this with just playing random bar trivia. How hard could that be? We never got close to a free chicken wing or a glass of water, you name it. And then he went home. That's worse. That is worse than our match. As someone who was there for both,
Yeah.
the trivia is worse.
Guide sale freebooter here for Ross. He's going to target Kazu.
See, I like being on the play in this matchup.
Sure.
Because I think even through a freebooter here, Negri's probably going to win next turn.
I see a Manamorphose and a Braid, a Lightning Bolt, a Desperate Ritual, and an Island.
I guess he doesn't have it rolled up. He has a lot of draws to a win next turn.
Yeah, I mean, he draws gifts on given the game might just end on the spot. Being on the play certainly does make a lot of sense here, as Ross is going to examine his options. Taking a beatdown in bar trivia. I'm not good at trivia.
It was so not competitive.
Yeah. So I can't make fun of anyone here, as Lightning Bolt will be the selection here for Ross. Ross hoping that Kazu doesn't find something to get the job done here. Is Kazu going to pick up his hand? Now, he could go for it, Cycle of Manamorphose, something that John Finkel says players do not do enough of.
Right.
Just cycling Manamorphose. Of course, Finkel one of Magic's best players of all time, maybe Magic's best player of all time, played Storm at Pro Tour 25th anniversary, wrote about Storm on StarCityGames.com on the premium side. If you want to learn more about that deck, as we watch Kazu figure out exactly what he wants to do here, I suppose this is the easy part.
Soften him up.
That freebooter could block. Like, let's see. Let him know. All right.
The attack. I mean, this attack makes sense if the draw step was exactly Grape Shot.
Sort of.
You'd probably rather keep the bolt. You'd rather keep the abrade. I'm guessing.
It was a 1-3 into a 1-2. Ross will elect to block. I think he's just supposed to. Let's see where Kazu's going to go next. All right, he's going to abrade the vial. We'll get an activation here. Will it be champion or will it be noble? It'll be noble that comes through the vial.
I don't know.
Well, now he gets the grape shot and kill both things.
That's what I'm saying. That I'm not sure I like Merriam vialing out the hierarchy.
Because
that attack to me suggests that was the draw step. That's the most easy justification. And then if that happens, you're just down your hierarch for very little reason.
Or you'd be down your champion, either card. Yeah, so there is grape shot going to kill them both there. So it looked like a strange attack there from Kazu, but he ends up clearing the battlefield, killing the vial, playing an island, and getting his lightning bolt back.
Yeah, my opinion there is if Ross wants to block there, then you can't vial out the hierarch. You do one thing or the other.
Merriam will draw now. Battlefield is cleared. Baral on the other side of things here for Negri. He could win the very next turn here. It's Kitesail Freebooter, however. Trigger, take a look. Desperate Ritual, Lightning Bolt, Manamorphose. We'll see what Kazu's draw step is. Again, this game could end right away. All it takes is one Gifts Ungiven. Going to start with a Manamorphose. He's going to go reaching maybe for the Storm counter and the mana counters. Negri will draw. Picked up an island for the turn. Is it go time for our Storm player? We normally know when it is, of course, for Caleb Scheer. He'll ask for his Storm counter and his mana counters, and you know the game is over. It doesn't appear to be the case just yet here for Negri, who may have picked up another copy of Manamorphose and may want to try to get a little deeper into the deck.
Well, if you picked up a Manamorphose, I think it's an easy cycle. You would just keep going. So if he said no, then I'm assuming that was not the draw step.
It appears not to be the case as we head back over to Merriam. Merriam going to come in here with the freebooter, and Negri's going to fall down to 18. The follow-up play will be another copy of Ether Vial, and Ross will simply pass the turn back, so Kazu will draw yet again. Merchant Scroll, an interesting addition to this deck, has a lot of utility here. As now here's Manamorphose. Kazu once again going to add a red and a blue. That'll be Storm count of 1. He'll draw a card. Picked up a copy of Spire Bluff Canal. Has a Lightning Bolt in hand, maybe thinking it's time to attack with Baral. He will. So right now for Kazu Negri, he's burned through 2 copies of Manamorphose, hasn't found a Past in Flames, and most importantly, hasn't found a copy of Gifts Ungiven, which right now, Patrick, is a game winner.
So something that happens in the post-board games for Storm, you bring in these bolts, and you have to cut rituals or cantrips to do it. It can be harder to combo out. Do the full 20 with Grape Shot. But what you can do is sort of just get it along the way. If you get in these chip shots with Baral and these bolts go into your graveyard, you can actually combo out from a much lower base because you're flashing back bolts, and then you can Grape Shot for a much lower amount and finish out the game that way.
It'll be a Phantasmal Image. In response, Lightning Bolt is going to take care of the freebooter. So now that Phantasmal Image is a copy of Baral, Chief of Compliance. Not exactly where Ross wants to be.
Like, that graveyard is really short on material to work with. Or it appears, because there's not much in the way of rituals or cantrips. But a Pass in Flames here allows Negri to win fairly easily from just flashback the Manamorphose, bolt you sometimes, and then Grape Shot you short. But you've gotten softened up by Baral attacks and the bolts along the way.
Merriam's Vial's up to 2. He's still got 2 mana on the battlefield here. So this is going to start to get a little bit interesting because if you're Ross, now you've got a Vial at a stage that matters. This is a Dire Fleet Daredevil. That is going to target Lightning Bolt. And not only will that exile Lightning Bolt from the graveyard, but it will allow Ross to kill the Baral, Chief of Compliance. So that's an exchange I just got to be happy with. That Phantasmal Image copy of Baral will come across for 1 as well, and that's not a bad turn there for Ross.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious win there is getting the Baral off the battlefield, but getting to exile a Lightning Bolt is not a small thing either, when Negri's easiest path to winning the game involves Past in Flames and then flash back a little bit of stuff and bolt you out.
A card here in Dire Fleet Daredevil that was initially critiqued for being in human sideboards. I think it has won some people over. Not the best card in the sideboard, but its ability is so unique in what it can do. It can surprise you in some spots. You wouldn't expect for Merriam to be able to get Baral off the battlefield in matchups like this unless it involves Reflector Mage.
The card seems great if your opponent is playing with cheap creatures and creature removal.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to come up.
We can't forget 2-1 first strike, no joke, especially if you start throwing in some counters or Exalted triggers. Here's a Cavern of Souls. That's likely going to be naming human, and now Mantis Rider is going to join the fray. So now Merriam's found a clock to work with, and Negri is still having some difficulty piecing it all together. So here's an attack for, let's make it 6 total. Could be more than that if Thalia's Lieutenant does show up, of course. Kazu says, I'm going to take the damage. And it looks like Merriam will pass the turn back, so Kazu will draw a card. Still looking for Gifts Ungiven, still looking for a cost reducer as Negri is at 10 right now. Is it time to perhaps get some work done here for Kazu, who made a great play in the early stages of the game? Here is a Lightning Bolt going to go after this Mantis Rider. Merriam going to think about responding to this. Leads me to believe that he may have a copy of Thalia's Lieutenant to save the Mantis Rider. Merriam at this stage becoming very well versed in humans, has played this deck quite a bit. Some quick breaks to play things like Elves and Blue Moon, but he's come back to a deck that has brought him a lot of success as Mantis Rider is going to head to the graveyard. Lightning Bolt does resolve with no responses. Question now, of course, is if Kazu Negri has anything else to do this turn.
Well, he's also got to get some thought of what would have caused Ross to tank and ultimately decide to just let it go.
And the fun thing is the answer to that question may have been nothing at all.
Well, I think from Ross's perspective, even if you have a way to save the Mantis Rider, if you put in, say, a Lieutenant to try to cover, if Negri has a Grape Shot, you just are at risk of losing everything.
Speaking of Grape Shot, gonna let this one rip.
And now if Merriam has a Lieutenant, he actually has this whole thing covered.
Well, mostly.
Well, yeah, I guess he loses the image no matter what.
Yes. But the Direfleet Daredevil will live.
Right, so Merriam there showing a lot of discipline, is if he had vialed out in response to the Lightning Bolt, he would have lost a lot more. He would have, in fact, lost everything.
Good discipline there from Ross. Kazu trying to walk him into a trap. It worked with the first Grape Shot. Didn't work with this one in game number 2. The question now is, where does Kazu go from here? He'll be taking at least 4 points of damage next turn, potentially more than that, depending on what Ross's main phase actions look like. And Kazu's trying to decide if it's time for him to make a move or not. Here's a Bolt. So what he has drawn this particular game, folks, is he's drawn a lot of removal. But we still sit in a situation where if Kazu is able to draw Gifts Ungiven, he's probably just fine, as he will wait patiently to see what Ross Merriam is going to do on his turn.
Yeah, I mean, if you can just generate enough mana, then you can, pass in flames, flash back your rituals, and just bolt a bunch of times and Grape Shot out. I think now there's 2 Grape Shots too, and that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Although mana is potentially an issue here with Negri not having a lot in the way of rituals in the graveyard, nor with one of the reducing creatures.
Just a lone 1/1 Thalia's Lieutenant here from Merriam. Is going to leave that Vial on 2. It's generally the spot you want it in this matchup. Gives you a lot of opportunity to respond, as here's a copy of Thalia's Lieutenant. There'll be a whole bunch of triggers on the stack. Ross is going to stack them accordingly, and we might see him vial something in here, and we are going to see that. He's going to vial in a copy of Thalia's Lieutenant. Excuse me, Thalia Guardian of Thraben. There's a Thalia party taking place here. Ultimately, what you're going to find is Ross's goal is to make this a 2-turn game.
Yep. Have some disruption on the table, enough size where you're unlikely to lose everything to a sweeper, and something to choke the mana.
It looks like Kazu drew a copy of Sleight of Hand. It's going to cost 2 to play. And it is worth noting that Thalia is a 3/2 in this situation as well. So if Baral were to show up, it wouldn't be able to just jump in front of Thalia. Looks like Kazu's going to just simply pass the turn back. Merriam's going to bring his Vial up to 3. Looks like he might see if the coast is clear with a kite sail freebooter. That is going to do it. Ross Merriam's going to win this match here over Kazu Negri. 2-0. Humans will take care of Storm. And in those games, it did look pretty academic there for Humans. And we even saw Kazu get off to a nice start there with the barrage.